Welcome to the MYS Virtual Hangout. Here's your host, MYS Music Director, Raul Gomez.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Hangout 49. Can you believe we've done 49 Hangouts? My guest today is Jenna Sherry. She's a violinist. She's from New Orleans originally, and that's where we met. She lives in London now. She's an amazing chamber musician. She teaches. She plays with all kinds of amazing people and amazing ensembles. She is also the founder and artistic director of Birdfoot Festival in New Orleans. I'm wearing my Birdfoot t-shirt, and I'm very excited to have her on the show. So, Jenna, there you are. Welcome to the Hangout.
Thank you so much, Raul. I love your shirt. Thank you for that intro.
I love it too. And I actually wear it often. I love this t-shirt.
That makes me so happy.
So, where in the world are you right now?
So, I normally live in London. Of course, I'm from New Orleans. I normally live in London, but right now I'm in Cornwall, England, which is the sort of westernmost part of England. Playing in one of the UK's first chamber music festivals to be able to go ahead. It's called the Dante Festival, and we're playing in this wonderful converted barn to audiences, sold out audiences, I might add, of 25 people. There only 25 are allowed in this space, so they can be kind of spread out. So we're walking on stage with masks to keep everyone safe. Playing without, luckily, and then putting them back on so we can walk back out through the audience. So we're taking lots of precautions, but I have to say it has been such an incredible joy to play with colleagues and to play for people to share music. So it's really been what I needed.
I am jealous. I mean, and how long is this festival? 1 week or?
It's been going on almost 10 days now. It will finish in 2 more days.
Okay, a couple of weeks. And was this the first live performing with an audience that you have done since the whole pandemic thing happened?
Yes, this was the first live performing with an audience.
Oh my goodness. And what so having done that, like when you the first performance you did just recently, what did you feel was the thing you missed the most?
I had done a number of virtual performances recently, including one of Bach's Art of Fugue. And it's just not quite the same performing for a camera, although it was wonderful to be playing with colleagues again. You don't get that same sort of palpable energy coming back from the audience that you do, which is why we do this. Otherwise, we would just stay in the practice room.
Right. Right.
But that experience of sharing music with an audience, I think, is why so many of us are musicians. And it's really special. You feel the concentration, you feel how they listen. And I've always felt it really changes how I play. That sort of space and time that's created by an audience. So,
and I mean, what a treat for the audience. I mean, those 25 people who get to experience that, we're all craving that so much. And
they've been really thrilled. It's been very touching to hear their reactions.
Yeah. Wow. Cool. Okay. Well, Jenna, let's just go back in time. I want to talk about New Orleans a little bit. And you grew up there. I know your parents, and they're awesome. And so, what was it like to grow up in New Orleans? It's a city that I love dearly and that I miss now that I live in Portland.
It's a wonderful place. To be really honest, I don't think I appreciated it growing up because it was just where I grew up. It was great. I mean, I loved going to Jazz Fest, which happens every year at the end of April and the beginning of May. Mardi Gras was really fun growing up as a kid. Yeah. I loved the music, but I didn't really realize that other places were more boring. And it wasn't until I left to go sort of study to become a professional violinist, left to go to music school and to university, that I realized how lucky I had been. And looking back on it, I think what's most interesting is for me to see how the experience of growing up there really informed my musical priorities. And really shaped me as a musician. And not just classical music. I mean, there were wonderful classical music concerts going on as well. And I was every week, at the symphony concerts in the balcony with my friends from youth orchestra. That was a very important part of every Saturday. But it was also the jazz clubs, and and Jazz Fest, and the music and the sort of spontaneity of that musical culture really shaped how I think music should be shared.
Yes, and we'll talk about it later, because I think the way Birdfoot presents music is informed by that, and it's a festival that really lives in its city. But tell me about youth orchestra. Did you do that? Were you very serious with your music making as a teenager and when you got started?
I was. I would say, I mean, I had a lot of interest. I was always very serious about playing. I was really lucky to have wonderful, really extraordinary teachers. I started studying violin with a woman named Marianne Fairley, and then moved on to study with an amazing musician named Valerie Paulette, who taught at Loyola University. And during that whole time, I worked a lot also with a man named John Fairley, who was a bassoon player in the orchestra in the Louisiana Philharmonic, and also the conductor of the Greater New Orleans Youth Orchestra. And I was actually, apparently I am a little bit to blame for the youth orchestra's founding, because the story goes that I came back from a summer camp one summer and said, "Mom, I want to play in the youth orchestra." And she started looking around and discovered there wasn't one, and asked my violin teacher, "Why is there not a youth orchestra?" And they started one. Amazing,
Okay,
right?
I had no idea that
You didn't know
was.
that.
I didn't know that. Oh, that's so
That's,
cool.
that's the story. So I was actually in the Greater New Orleans Youth Orchestra from its very first year. My feet didn't even quite touch the floor. Those chairs were too tall for me. They still are, let's be honest. Um, so I was in the youth orchestra from day one until I think I was there for the 10th anniversary, and maybe even the 11th. I can't quite remember.
Sure, sure.
And it was incredibly formative. I have to say that John Fairley programmed. He really trusted the musical instincts of everyone in the youth orchestra, and he didn't hold back from challenging us. So often he would say, "Okay, we're going to play music that you're going to love, but it's going to be difficult. You're going to have to really work hard." And the moment he would say that, we would go, sit a little taller, and we would really practice hard. And I remember he had us, we did Beethoven's Third Symphony, the Heroic Symphony, which now I look back on it and think, was he crazy? But no, he just wanted us to taste the music he loved. So I remember playing Beethoven 5, Beethoven 8, Beethoven 1, Beethoven 3, several Shostakovich symphonies, Brahms overtures, on and on and on. It was really incredible programming.
At what point did you know that you were going to pursue music as a career?
That's a great question. Actually, I remember the moment. It was a combination of things. For me, going to chamber music festivals, camps as a teenager was really formative. And I just loved playing in small groups with other people, and the way that you could kind of get your hands dirty in the music, take it apart, put it back together, feel the harmonies, and in a way that was much more personal. And I remember at one point actually being at a concert in Dixon Hall. It was the American String Quartet, I think with Menachem Pressler, and I remember they were playing the Dvorak quintet, piano
Sure.
quintet. And I left that concert in the middle of that quintet. I thought, this is what I want to do.
How old were you?
15, 16?
High school.
I can't
Like,
quite remember.
sure.
Something like that. Yeah. And it just, I thought, okay, this is it. This is the best.
Meaning music and violin, or specifically chamber music?
Specifically chamber music.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
you were so kind of laser focused on that path from an
Well,
early
I mean,
age.
it's easy for it to be so clear looking back, but it really, sparked something in me. And it was just magical to see a small group of people, making this kind of music on a stage and sharing it. And that really captivated me.
Yeah. And then after high school, you went to Indiana University.
Yes.
What was that experience like for you?
It was wonderful. It's a huge music school, which meant that there are incredible resources. It took me some time to sort of find my feet and find my people, and which I, surprise, surprise, finally sort of found in the string quartet seminar. That's when I really started feeling at home. But it was wonderful. I look back on it now and realize what incredible professors I had learning music history and theory, and it was a beautiful campus, so I enjoyed it very much.
And how did London come about?
So that was a real incredible, incredible luck. I had always wanted to study abroad, and it never quite fit. There was a lot to do as studying music. I was busy. It never really fit into my schedule. And one of my advisors near the end of my time at Indiana University suggested I apply for a scholarship that would allow me to study in London. And I thought, okay, might as well apply. And I went through the process. It was quite a big process. It took a lot of work, but to my incredible surprise, I got the scholarship, and I had 2 years in London. So I set about finding a teacher. I did a master's degree at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama with David Takeno, who is an incredible teacher. He's taught several generations of musicians, and I would say the thing I really learned from him is he lived by example. He sort of would have his students over for afternoon lessons that sometimes morphed into evening reading sessions if another student was there. And he just kind of showed us what it was to live as a musician. We would be having a lesson on something, and he has this incredible library that's kind of like a round room lined with bookshelves. And he would pull something off the shelf and open it up and show us an example, or pull something else off to show us what was life like in Vienna in the time of Schubert, or what was happening in the year that Bach wrote his solo partitas. And I think I sort of absorbed from him how to keep sort of nourishing yourself as a musician and feeding your creativity.
Yeah,
Incredibly inspiring.
what a luxury to be immersed in music like that.
Yeah.
And you ended up staying in London, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you never moved back. Like, I mean, you go back and forth a lot.
I come back and forth a lot. I come back and forth to New Orleans a lot, but I've never moved back.
Yeah.
I met my husband in London, and I started working, started teaching. It's one of those funny things. I never expected to be here
Sure.
now, but here I am. Yeah.
We have a few short videos that I'm excited to share with our viewers. And the first one of them is a performance that involves you and actually a friend of MYS on the cello. He's a member of Far Cry, and he's been here working with our students. So I'm excited to show this video. Would you mind introducing it?
Amazing. I didn't even really realize that. I'll introduce it. This is quite a special video, actually. So shall I say who the cellist is,
Sure.
or leave that a surprise? So the cellist is Michael Unterman, who is a dear friend and a many-time Birdfoot Festival participant. The piece we're going to play is very special because it was written during the first week of the lockdown in March in the UK. And the story is that my husband is a pianist and composer. And so we sort of got stuck, as everyone did, and we're really sort of struggling to figure out what's going on, and sad about all of the concerts that had been canceled. And the first day of the UK lockdown was March 21st, which happens to be Bach's birthday. And Pratch, my husband, thought, okay, I need something to give me a sense of structure during this time. I will give myself the challenge of writing a 2-part invention, like Bach, every day for a week, and it has to fit on 1 page. So just 2 lines, a different style, a different constraint every day, and it has to fit on 2 lines. And on the 6th day of this, I was going through the very sad process of canceling the Birdfoot Festival in New Orleans. And Pratch wrote a blues in honor of the festival, and sort of in sadness that we couldn't go there. So this piece comes from a very special moment, and we asked Michael to record it.
Okay. Let's take a listen. Here it is. Very nice. So you're like in a stairway. Where's that?
That's in the stairway actually of the apartment building where I live. We just kind of thought, well, this isn't a performance. We're making a video, so let's get a little theatrical.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we thought that the rail of the stairway reminded us of sort of New Orleans wrought iron. So we
sure.
thought, let's pretend this is
Yeah,
a sort of, New Orleans
yeah.
staircase and just for fun.
And of course, you guys sound great, and it's a beautiful short piece. How did you guys record it? Did Michael record first, and then you record it on top, basically?
Michael recorded first, and then I had to practice a lot actually to learn how to play with his part without having the normal visual cues.
Sure.
For all that these videos end up looking like you play together, it's not real music making. It's only a sort of memory of. So it ended up working really well, but it took some time to sort of get the feel of how he was playing it so I could play with
Yeah.
it in a
So
natural way.
there's no click track or anything. You're just playing on top of his
Yeah, it was simple
recording.
enough. We
Yeah,
could do it without.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Very nice. So uh, are there seven inventions total then?
There are seven inventions, and although we're playing this one on violin and cello, they're actually sort of all written to be played on piano, and some of them are quite easy. So I would encourage, if any of you are interested, you can look up Pratch's website. Maybe you can share it later, and
Sure.
I think he has a link somewhere, or you can write to him, and he would be happy to.
Oh, very
Yeah,
cool.
they're beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, those are so nice for, recording them just like you guys did.
Yeah, or
Um,
just playing them on your own at the
sure,
piano.
sure.
Yeah.
Cool. But so yeah, Michael has been here. Um, I think at least, I mean, since I've been in Portland with MYS at least twice, as part of, a small group of criers, members of a Far Cry, the Grammy-nominated chamber orchestra from Boston. They come here,
Incredible. Yes.
yeah, and they work with our most advanced string ensemble, which is
Mhm.
actually modeled after a Far Cry. It's a self-conducted ensemble with some of our most, dedicated young musicians, and we love them, and it's great to have them every year. Of course, this year it's most likely not gonna happen, at least in person. Hopefully we'll make
Yeah.
something online, but and actually, the summer that I was a guest violist for Birdfoot, which again,
Yes.
I
I remember well, only a few years ago, 3, 4 years ago, something.
more like 5 or 6, I think.
Uh-oh.
But in any case, one of the members of my Birdfoot quartet was Alex Fortes, who's also a
A
member of a
part of
Far
our crowd.
Cry and
Yes.
who's come work with the students several
They
times.
are all fantastic, incredible musicians and such wonderful people. I'm big fans.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
And
big fan.
it's so cool to see all of these, I mean, you and them, and so many
Well, I
cool
think
people
that
connecting in so many different
and the
ways.
inspiration has very much gone both ways. I've been very inspired by seeing what a Far Cry has done. And then I heard from Michael that their Goldberg Variations project was at one point inspired by something we had done in Birdfoot in the second year. And they said,
Mm.
well, if Birdfoot can do it, we can do it. And convinced the group that this was a good idea because it had worked at Birdfoot. So,
Very cool. Well, let's talk. We're already talking about Birdfoot, so let's talk about the origins of Birdfoot.
yeah.
When, how, all of those.
Well, it started as a very simple idea that we had no idea how crazy it was. It was, well, there's no chamber music festival in New Orleans. There really should be. And I started chatting with a few people, and I twisted my mother, Tracy Sherry, who's the one who helped start the Greater New Orleans Youth Orchestra. I twisted her arm. She has her own story to tell about it, but let's just say I twisted her arm because I knew she knew how to start an organization. And I knew how to be an artistic director, and I knew from having been involved in a lot of festivals, what I thought would work. The other thing for me was I sort of, as a musician, I always felt that I was having to leave New Orleans to play the music and the chamber music I loved. And I thought that I would really like to not have to do that, to be able to play at home. And the other thing for me was the inspiration, as we talked about before, the inspiration of listening to music in like a small jazz club atmosphere, and how no one's really asking, what kind of music is this? Is this jazz? Is this pop? Is this classical? It's just good music. And there's a lot of music in New Orleans that crosses genres. Yes. And people come with open mind and open ears. And there's such a special sense of listening that happens there. And I thought, well, this is how chamber music should be played. What happens if we bring the best chamber music into these settings? Really, the idea was basically that New Orleans has something that classical music needs. Let's see what happens when we smash them together. So the festival started like that, and also with a very sort of experimental side, where we really wanted to create a place where musicians could come together and collaborate deeply and be vulnerable and explore new ideas, and then present these for audiences, and also sort of experiment with programming and how to present concerts for audiences and bring the audiences in on that fun. So those were some of the ideas that inspired the festival. So that was 2012 was the first festival, and next year will be the 10th anniversary. May would have been 9 years. Sadly, it was only a shadow of what it should have been.
Sure. And so 2012, and you've been doing summer sessions each year since.
Yes. Yeah.
One of my favorite things, that one summer that I had the pleasure of playing a very small part, I drove out to where you guys were staying. It was this big house and, outside of New Orleans.
Countryside, yeah.
And I mean, I was just jealous that I wasn't staying there with you guys, because it seemed like such a cool, immersive, sort of like a sanctuary for chamber music for everybody who was there. Yeah. And rehearsals were just so fun, and just it just felt so good.
I think one of the other really important aspects of the festival has been this idea that if you give musicians the time and space to do their best work and do what they do best, everybody wins. The musicians feel nourished and inspired, and sort of the creative juices start flowing, and audiences then also enjoy the sort of, electric results of that. So that the first 5 days of the festival are this retreat setting, and that's very important. That was actually, it's interesting that here we are talking, I'm in Cornwall. That idea was actually very much inspired by a festival I've been involved with very fortunately for many years now, called the International Musicians Seminar at Prussia Cove, which is at the tip of Cornwall near Penzance. If any of you know Pirates of Penzance, well, Penzance is a real place. No pirates that I've found yet. Maybe they're there somewhere. And so there's this very special music festival, the idea of which they have a master class, which many of the MYS musicians may eventually, want to keep an eye out in the long term. They bring musicians together for a master class every year in April. And then every year in September, musicians come together to rehearse and only perform if they want to. So there's just this idea that you come together because musicians need to share ideas and rejuvenate, and then the concerts come with what the musicians want to present. Now, we don't do that with Birdfoot because it's a little bit more complicated, but we've tried to recreate this sort of retreat-like atmosphere. Yeah.
And I mean, I remember walking into like a place, I suppose it's still there, the Ace Hotel in New Orleans, and there's the bar, and then there's a Birdfoot concert, and like it's standing room only, and this kind of like, it's a really nice bar, but it's a bar. It's dark. It has like bar lights and but what was really cool is that it worked. You know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah.
not like it didn't feel like two separate things kind of put together.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just, it just worked.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that
I think, I mean, one thing we always talk a lot about is, okay, these are the spaces we're using in a particular year. What music feels at home in them? And we try and match that up so that, but we also like sometimes, sort of juxtaposing things. For example, last year, we did a Bach cantata at Ace Hotel.
mm,
And in fact, it was a Bach cantata all about how you should resist sin and don't let the sort of the devil tempt you into sinning. And we thought that was quite a fun juxtaposition in this bar nightclub. So we have fun with it as well.
very cool. And as you said, unfortunately, this summer you had to cancel the festival, which is very sad. But you guys did make a video, a short video, uh,
Mhm.
and I would love to show the first 45 seconds or so. So
Sure,
why don't I play
sure.
this one and then we'll talk, I'll ask you about it a little bit. So here we go. Okay. I love this video so much. So my first question, who's playing the cactus?
The cactus, and very important, no percussionists were harmed in the making of this video. A wonderful percussionist named Michael Compitello, who has fantastic videos online. I highly recommend you check them out. And he was going to be the percussionist at this year's festival. So this video was kind of a teaser of some of the things that would have been one of the festival's programs.
Yeah.
And this is actually, believe it or not, this Amplified Cactus is actually a real piece by John Cage, which we were going to perform. And anyone who wants to hear it is just going to have to come next year. And then we were going to pair that with a chamber music, a chamber arrangement of Beethoven's Sixth Symphony. And I absolutely adore this symphony. And of course, this year is Beethoven's sort of 250th anniversary, so it worked well. But I found, especially when the pandemic started and trying to come to terms with the new reality and all of the losses, I found this last movement incredibly moving because, as any of you who've played the symphony will know, this comes right after the storm movement. And this is the sort of peasant song of I think it's of thankfulness after the storm. And that sort of was the feeling I wanted to think towards the moment when we can feel that and, of course, perform this in person after this storm.
Yes. Well, I cannot wait for next summer and for you guys to be able to get back together in person. And, I'm sure you'll probably do some of the projects you were going to do this year, and there'll be new ideas and more fun things you guys will be doing. I also want to ask you, a couple more things. You teach.
Yes.
You've been teaching for a while. So earlier you were talking about the influence that your teachers have had on you as a violinist, and I'm sure also as a teacher, the way you teach is influenced by them. Where do you teach currently, and where have you taught in the past?
Currently, I have a violin class in the School for Young Talent, which is part of the Royal Conservatory in The Hague, in the Netherlands. So I have a wonderful group of students there, and I also teach a lot of chamber music there. I'm one of the chamber music coordinators. Surprise, surprise. There seems to be a theme here. And before that, I taught at the Yehudi Menuhin School as an assistant teacher for 5 years, which is a wonderful place. Both of these are specialist music schools where young musicians who think they want to become professional musicians can apply. to basically spend time learning and playing and being immersed in music with other colleagues who feel as strongly as they do about music. They're both wonderful places. Yeah, and I feel really lucky to be working with these young musicians. I really enjoy sort of sharing the things I've discovered with my students. So these are the main things. Although the other thing, which I might have mentioned, which I'm very excited about, a new project, is Pratch and I started just recently at the end of July, an online course for young musicians called Musicianship for Performers.
Yes.
And any of you who are interested are absolutely welcome to get in touch. The idea with this course is to sort of create a community that is bigger than any of our one places, of sharing ideas. So the course explores how to connect your sort of imagination and the musicianship skills you might have learned, whether it be theory, history, especially with a big emphasis on listening to harmony, and put this into your performance and sort of connect your imagination with what you do physically. Something that we felt wasn't being taught nearly enough. And so it's a very self-directed course, which means that you can join from wherever you want, but you'll be connected with a network of other like-minded musicians. So please get in touch if you're interested, because we're starting a new one, September 13th.
Yes, and what's the best way to find out more online? Where can
the website, musicianshipforperformers.com. And then send us a message, because we've announced the new course. And if you do the time calculation and realize that it might be a little bit earlier in the day on the West Coast, don't worry, because we're thinking about starting a second section for all of the students who have contacted us from the US. So,
very good. And we'll link that on the
cool.
video.
Great. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. Now, you also have a recording coming up. So will you share about that, and then we'll play a little preview of it?
Sure. This is a very exciting project I've been working on for a while. I've been collaborating with a Hungarian pianist named Daniel Löwenberg, who we actually met at this very music festival, Prussia-Cove. And we started, one of the first things we played together was a wonderful sonata by Ernst von Dochnányi, the Hungarian composer. And this sonata is not very much played, and not very much. We found one or two recordings, but not many. And it's just an absolutely wonderful, stunning piece. And we've paired it with two Brahms sonatas, which were originally written by the composer for clarinet and viola, and also published for violin. But the violin version also hasn't really been recorded and isn't played much. So it's a very exciting project. We've done all the recording. We're in the middle of the editing, and it will come out sometime this fall. I'll know more soon.
And you got to record Dochnányi in Hungary. How cool is that?
Yes, in Budapest. It was very special.
That's very cool. So let's listen to about a minute of the Dochnányi. Here we go. I'm so excited to listen to the whole thing when it comes out.
It's a stunning piece. It's a really gorgeous piece.
What instrument do you play on? What kind of instrument do you play?
My instrument, I have it right here. It's gorgeous. It was actually made. I don't know if you can. There we go. There's a little bit better light, and it's got a very pretty back. It was made by a German maker named Joachim Schade. For anyone who speaks German, it's very funny because Schade means means to shame. And he lives in the east of Germany, And he was actually one of the few violin makers who was allowed to export things before the wall fell. So he's really, and he inspired sort of generations of makers. And I had heard from several colleagues that he made beautiful instruments. And I went to visit him and tried 4 or 5 by him and his son and came away with this. So it's about 6 or 7 years old. And it's sort of grown and, matured over those years.
So you mean the instrument was made 6 or 7 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. And how long has it been with you?
Since then.
Oh,
So
okay, got it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it sounds great.
Thanks.
Jenna, let's we have a few fun segments that we do on the MYS virtual hangouts, and I would love to do those with you after having learned about your work and Birdfoot and everything that you do. But now we get to learn about sort of, a different side of Jenna Sherry. And let's start with the 2 truths and a lie game. And you shared 3 statements with us. 2 of them are true, 1 of them is a lie. I have no idea which is which. So I'm going to try to guess. And I am going to reveal those on the screen as I read them out loud. And I will also try to read your face and see if I get any information.
Poker face time.
Right. Okay, so statement A. Jenna has done a handstand on the Great Wall of China. Statement B. Jenna has never broken a string in concert. Statement C. Jenna has performed with a dead fish. Okay, now, let's see here. I'm going to take a critical look at each of these, okay? So, Great Wall of China, I know you travel, before the pandemic anyways, you used to travel extensively, so I think it's absolutely possible that you have been there. And I could see you doing a handstand there, like, B.
You obviously haven't been following my Instagram account.
Is it only handstands? That's all you take pictures of? Statement B, you've never broken a string in concert. That seems unlikely, but then again, maybe that's what you want me to think. And C, I've performed with a dead fish. Now, I guess I don't know if you use the dead fish as an instrument or if you performed with somebody who didn't have a lot of musicality, so it felt like performing with a dead fish.
I'm not that cruel.
Okay, so what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to guess one of the truths first. And I'm going to say that because you like, to do things out of the box and experimental stuff and new music and fun things, I'm going to go ahead and say that statement C is true. You have performed with a dead fish. Is that true?
Do I tell you now?
Yeah.
It is true.
Yes. Okay. So, well, tell me about that.
It's actually not as exciting as it sounds. It was a supposedly very creative concept, and there was a dead fish on the stage.
Okay.
There is photographic evidence, but it's not worth much more of a story.
Sure. It probably didn't smell very good either.
No, no.
Okay. So, very good. So I'm down to 2 statements, and this is the moment of truth. Between handstand on the Great Wall of China or you've never broken a string in concert. So I am going to guess the lie. And I am going to say, actually, that the lie is the handstand on the Great Wall of China. So that is true. You have done a handstand on the Great Wall of China.
True. Yes. One of my unusual habits, which I've revived recently, is doing handstands.
So you do have handstands on your Instagram.
Yes.
You do. Okay. So clearly, I haven't been on Instagram.
You've got enough
much.
to do. You've got enough to do. It's a fairly recent addition.
Well, and you that means, by the way, you win. You're the winner of this episode's 2 Truths and a Lie because you fooled me. So it is true that you've never broken a string in concert. Oh, wait,
No,
sorry,
that's
it's
a
a
lie.
lie.
It's a lie.
It's a lie that you've never broken a string in concert. You
It's a lie.
have indeed.
That was tricky of me. That was a bit, yeah.
Yeah, so
I
you
have broken a string in concert. In fact, it was so memorable. I came up with this because it was so memorable and slightly traumatic.
oh.
The only time I have broken a string in concert was my first time playing in the Vienna Musikverein, the Bach Magnificat. And just near the end, and I was playing with a historical group, so gut strings and Baroque
Yes,
bows.
okay.
And of all strings, the G string, which is the one didn't have a spare string of because they never
Because
break.
when do they break
It went
exactly?
boom.
Oof. Well,
And I had to sit there on stage. Somebody passed me a string, changing it, and my hands were shaking like this because it's a gorgeous hall, and everyone in the audience could see me, and they were kind of pointing, and it was a very sublime part in the music. So that was quite memorable.
and they're gut strings, so there goes your
Yeah.
whole instrument. Like all of the other strings are like totally like out of whack at that point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh no.
Yeah. I survived.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still here.
Very good. Okay. All
Good
right. Well,
story.
then, Jenna, you're the winner of this episode's Two Truths and a Lie. Now, there are just a couple more things here that I want to ask you. One of them is our segment that we call Sound Advice. And this is my question to you. If
Yeah.
you could travel back in time to when you were, say, in high school, and you could give yourself advice, it could be musical, it could be about life, it could be about anything. What would that advice be?
It would be to find the person who is your teacher, the one who fits you better than anyone else, the one who you need, because everyone needs something different from a teacher. And I think often we are tempted to trust somebody's sort of big name or fame, perhaps, rather than the feeling that this is the person who I will learn the most from.
That's excellent advice. And you know what? To that, I will add that most teachers are happy to give sort of like a free
Yep,
lesson, like a
consultation.
like an introductory like test lesson. That's a great way to get to know teachers and to, like you're saying, get to know what fits you.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
Cool. That's great advice. Thank you for that. And finally, Jenna, our last segment is called The Plug. And here's where you plug anything. And you've shared about two things that we could maybe hear about again here as a reminder at the end. Or if there's also anything else you'd like to share with us, now is the perfect time for that.
The moment. Well, I guess the first one is that you would all be absolutely welcome to come and join us in this Musicianship for Performers online course and online community. I mentioned that we started a course, but actually it really became a community after just the first very short course, a very special group. And that's musicianshipforperformers.com. And we'll be starting a new course on September 13th over 6 Sundays. So it's a very sort of spread out and manageable. And the idea is that it helps you, you bring to it whatever repertoire you are already working with, and you will work with the homework for the course will help you go deeper into whatever you're already working on. So it won't add a huge amount of workload to what you're doing for anyone who might be worried. What else? Obviously, come visit us in New Orleans and come to the Birdfoot Festival.
Yes.
And is there something else?
You're recording Docnani and Brahms.
Yes, I will be releasing a recording coming out this fall on the BMC label. If you're interested in getting that, come find me on Instagram. Give me a shout. Please, I'd love to stay in touch. Send me a message. Find me on Facebook. Stay in touch. And I will let you know when it comes out.
Very nice. Jenna, thank you so much for spending time with us at the MYS Virtual Hangout, especially after a concert. It's late night for you, and it's been great catching up. I can't wait to, check out all of these things that you're describing, and to hopefully, I hope one day I can be in New Orleans in the summer Durham barefoot to experience one of those amazing concerts.
Me too. And I also hope that I will end up in Portland one day so I can
Yes,
visit you and see and meet all of your amazing groups, see all of your
yes,
amazing work.
indeed.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Jenna. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
That was Jenna Sherry, all the way from England, joining us for today's Hangout. We have amazing guests coming up on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Pacific. Next week, Catherine Larson McGuire, an amazing conductor and bassoonist based in Berlin. The week after that, Sergio Carreño, percussionist with the Oregon Symphony. And the week after that, Stephen Schmidt, a very successful composer who works primarily with film, and he lives in Los Angeles, and he is an MYS alum. So please join me next week for actually Hangout number 50. It's a big celebration, and I'm so happy that Catherine is going to be our guest. Until then, take care.